lost track. Episode, what are we, 6?
Possibly, yeah, I've lost track as well.
See, I love that season 2 is in and of itself becoming a non-linear season in the way that all the episodes are coming out, because that is in many ways resonating with transformation and healing because they're non-linear. So the show's taking that as part of its embodiment for season 2. It's like it wants to really vibe with what we're talking about. So season 2 has been a bit non-linear in the way that it's been recorded. But the beautiful thing about it is that the behind the scenes may be non-linear, but everybody that's on the listening end, they're receiving it very linearly. And our show is now on YouTube. I do want to mention that just at the start of today's episode. Just so that way people know that we're on YouTube. Like, our episodes are being released in full. There's video. You're seeing the Zoom call. You're seeing all of it on YouTube. And tomorrow, well, we record on Thursdays, so Fridays are when our episodes are releasing. So on a Friday, you can listen to the show. You can watch the show. It's all there. That's in terms of any housekeeping. Aside from that, you sort of wanted to bring something onto the show and talk about something on the show today. Because I think the topic that we're also discussing is very resonant with what you're feeling and what we're both feeling today.
Yeah, I had an off morning this morning, and I got put in a funk. And I really kind of allowed myself to get down into that funk. And I was just kind of like, you know what? I think this is probably a really good thing to discuss today. Because, we're talking about transformation, and a big part of transformation is healing. And healing isn't linear. It's just not linear. We want it to be linear. We want to be, we're here at point A and we want to be at point B, and it just doesn't go in a linear line. Sometimes it goes up and down. Sometimes it looks messy. And this morning was just one of those mornings. And I allowed myself to listen to a podcast, and I think this podcaster is fabulous. I love her. It's Dr. Ramani. And, as I've talked before, I went through a very traumatic experience. And on her podcast, it was really very cool because she talked about how to heal from a narcissistic relationship. And she talked on it on many different layers and many different levels, from the personal level to the group level, if a group of people are with this person. And she went word for word for word for word what I went through.
Wow.
And it literally, I was sitting there getting ready. And sometimes I turn on these podcasts in the morning as I'm getting ready for work. And I really like to listen to more upbeat. And I was listening to Asha Nayaswamy this morning, and she was talking about intuition, and my phone rang and I got off of YouTube. And when I went back, this just got me, That topic just really got me. And I was like, okay, let me get on here and see what she has to say. And it just really brought me back to that time in my life. And all of the thoughts and all of the feelings that I thought during that time. And I just noticed that it just really put me in a negative space. And it wasn't because of her. It was because what that topic was it was highlighting the pain that I went through.
Right.
And still on some level, that pain that I'm still going through from time to time. And I just was just like, ugh, and I got in the car and I was just feeling kind of just energetically drained a little bit. And she had some really great ways, like when you get out of these types of relationships, you have to move forward and you have to get to know yourself again. And that is part of the process of making yourself happy. And you've got to ask these questions. Who am I? Where do I stand? What do I stand with? What is my body telling me? Some days you wake up and your nervous system is like, no, going back to sleep, and you have to honor it. And some days you wake up and your body is like, oh, I need to cry right now, and you need to honor it, and I spent almost 2 years honoring that. I really believe that really helped me heal, and but yeah, I was in a funk today. I was really, really, really in a funk today. And these are the days that the healing process and the transformation process doesn't always look pretty.
I think it's very fascinating that, or not that, but I think it's very fascinating how sometimes we, even though in a moment we believe that we have healed from a certain wound, that wound represents itself perhaps even under different circumstances. But it's in order for your healing process, or in order for your soul to look at that different, or that healing process from a different angle, from a different perspective, from a different layer. And it's very interesting to me, like something like what you went through, today's trigger perhaps was a trigger, yes, but it was a trigger for you to look at it in a different way from today's perspective, from your current shift, or wherever you are in that transformation cycle right now, you're looking at that thing. And I've had these moments before where sometimes I'll, notice that I was triggered, and I'd be like, why am I getting triggered? Like, I thought I was over this. I thought I had gotten past this. Why am I being triggered here again? And to me, it's always the way that I've looked at it, and the way that I've always sort of felt the reason behind why this happens is because when a wound happens, it's not like a flesh wound. It's very, or maybe it is very much like a flesh wound, because like a tissue is very layered. Like there's a lot of different layers to tissue. So if we take every single layer of tissue and take that into like a more spiritual or a more soul-like wound, then every single one of these layers is, in a way, whether you believe in past lives or not, or reincarnation, or how a soul does their journey, it's every single one of those layers is experience that you've sort of layered up. And that wound that you experience in this lifetime is opening that gap. And now you're able to, every time you heal, you're able to close up one of those layers because of a different situation, because you're being triggered about that thing again. It's a reminder that you're not done. Like your healing is not done. Like a soul wound, a soul trauma, it could take you an entire lifetime to maybe sew up that one wound. You know what I mean? If a wound goes that deep, if it's part of your soul's, I think the right word to use here would be dharma. If that's your soul's purpose, or your soul's lesson to learn, or journey to take in this lifetime, then it's going to take you a while to sew that wound up, and it's okay. You have to honor that journey, and you have to actually look at it as a blessing and as a gift, because there's really something very wise that's going to come from this. Like you're going to be able to delve deeper into your inner wisdom in a way that you maybe wouldn't have been able to do if you didn't experience that wound. It's like when I talk about my experience with bullying, like I look at it now and I'm grateful for it. Like I'm grateful I actually went through that, because if I hadn't experienced that side of humanity, let's say, I don't believe that I would have been as compassionate as I am. I don't believe that I would have been as empathic as I am, because I wouldn't have known what that meant. I wouldn't have known what that sort of hardship, or that kind of hardship, meant. I'm grateful for it now, because it's made me the man that I am today. It's made me the compassionate person that I am today, the loving person that I am today, because I took that wound and I transformed it to love.
I think it was really interesting that you were talking about, like if you wound the physical body, like if you wound the skin, say you cut your skin, there are many different layers. And when the skin is cut, or if there's been any kind of trauma, like to the physical body, there are so many different layers to that trauma. But, somebody that's been working on people for so long, one of the things that happens is the body heals in its time as it's capable of healing, first and foremost. You can have trauma to the body and you can think, I am healed tomorrow. Well, that might not always happen, and that might not always work, because the body is only capable of healing as it's capable of healing, as quickly as that takes. And and that's a lot of what happens too with emotional trauma. But the other thing that happens is scar tissue begins to form to heal that physical wound. And it's kind of like if you are running, you have your favorite pair of jeans and you're running and you trip and fall and, scrape a hole in the knee of the jeans. You don't want that hole there. So you take a needle and thread and you sew it up. That place where it's sewn up now is stronger. And that's what happens with the body. We have scar tissue that comes in and helps heal that wound, that physical wound. And that physical wound now, as the body is healing, makes that area stronger. And I really believe that if we focus on the right things, then that wound will become stronger in a more positive way. It can be stronger in a negative way. How many times have we seen people that have gone through trauma and they've come out on the other side stronger, but they may be stronger in a more negative way, or they're stronger in a more positive way.
They numb up, they shore up, they close off, they become more, they become harder on life, on like it almost, an extreme version of that is when they become unforgiving. It's like they become unforgiving and very cold towards life. And when
I came here today, like the thing that has really kept me going is my faith and trust in the divine. It's my faith and trust in God that honestly keeps me going at all times. And I don't even know why I'm getting choked up saying this, but I don't always know what it's going to look like. Like my mind wants to say, okay, this is what it's going to look like. And it's going to be rainbows and unicorns. And, the healing process just isn't rainbows and unicorns. It's not always that. But it's been my faith and my trust in a higher power, because I've had the experiences. My heart has been open enough throughout my life to recognize the experiences that I've had, and to know that, yes, it's all going to be okay. I just feel a little raw today, but it was just really interesting. I came into work today and I just started, because of my faith and trust in the divine, and because of some of the things that I've, read and experienced and everything, I just started opening up my books and I just started reading. And one of the first things that I read was Sri Kalishwar. This is what I opened it up to. Being able to see the beauty hidden in the horrible. And that's the title. And he said there are two power channels. There are two ways to see the horrible. Either you can see a great heaven in the horrible, or you can, or again, in the horrible, you can see more horrible. It's already horrible, but you can see more horrible in it. Either way, it's flexible depending on which channel you want. So what is it that we really want? Do you want to see more horrible in the horrible, or do you want to see the good in the
I love
horrible?
how he phrases it. Do you choose to see the heaven in the horrible, or
But whatever
horrible
you
in the
see,
horrible?
but whatever you see is basically what you want to see, you know? Some people use this kind of channel in a negative way for negative purposes, but that's not our way. And he was talking to his students, and the way he teaches his students, that's not our way. We are taking this power channel in a huge divine way. So I was just like, okay, what do I want to see in this whole process? And this, this came up this morning for a reason. And I had to see, I guess, that there is still like a deep pain in there, and there is still healing that needs to take place. But the truth of the matter is I want to get stronger in a positive way. And that's where I'm at right now. And yeah, it still feels like crap, but I have to allow myself to feel like crap, and that's okay. It's all right. I just have to honor myself right now.
It's like this constant choice that we make every single day, every single moment. It's like, Absolutely. Am I going to see heaven, or am I going to see horrible?
Right.
Do I want to see heaven, or do I want to see horrible? It's this constant proactive choice that we make every single second of every single minute of every single hour of every single day.
It's like, do you remember in the book, The Real Life and Teachings of Jesus Christ, when Swami was talking about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I went through was a kind of crucifixion. I mean, we all go through a kind of crucifixion, though we're not nailed on a cross. Your bullying incident was a kind of crucifixion. Mm-hmm. But he talked about that, and how Jesus really stayed in the positive through the whole thing, because he had totally surrendered. He totally surrendered to God. And he talked about how, in the midst of his pain, it wasn't as painful. He was forgiving, but it wasn't as painful because he was constantly seeking God, and he was constantly had his eyes on God, and he was surrendered, and he loved humanity so much. And I don't want to say loved, because that love is still there, but he loves humanity so much that all he could do was forgive as he was being crucified. And the guy that was nailing his cands to the cross, he was blind in one eye, and he recognized who Jesus was, and he said, I can't do this. And Jesus said, do your dharma, which means do your duty.
Yeah, do your duty.
And that guy nailed the nail on his hand, and blood came up and hit this guy's face, and it healed his blind eye. And that wouldn't have happened if he stayed in a negative.
Right.
If he took that horrible situation, man, that takes some strength and some power.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say, is like, it's not even bypassing. Like, a lot of people might even look at it and be like, well, you're just bypassing. No. That choice, the choice to see heaven in the horrible, is not bypassing. That takes, I mean, I was this close to saying a word that I probably shouldn't say on the show, but that takes, that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of effort, because you're fighting every single fiber of your being, because it's so easy for us to see the horrible in the horrible. it's almost like that's our
Because it's there
default.
in front of our face.
Yeah, it's like that's the default setting. But for you to go into that, the way your brain is wired, and rewire it and go, no, 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 we're going to see the heaven and the horrible. That takes effort, especially,
It's about,
especially when you can feel the pain, especially when you're, you know, feeling raw and vulnerable and drained. And it's, you know,
it's about what you want. Really, like he said here, it is depending on which channel you want. There's a lot of horrible things going on right now, but what do you want? Do you really want to get through it and get over it and turn that negativity into positivity? One of the greatest characters, I think, in Hindu mythology is Hanuman. And Hanuman's tail got lit on fire, but he used it in a positive way. He ended up using it in a positive way. And he ended up using the tail, his tail being on fire, to rescue Sita and bring Sita back to Rama. And he did that because he wanted to rescue her. He wanted to rescue her. He wanted to bring her back to Rama. So what do you want? And what do I want through this whole process? And that is not bypassing. Bypassing would be me watching this today and going, okay, that sucked, but I'm better, and not acknowledging my feelings. Really being with me and saying, gosh, that brought up some stuff. And I guess I'm not totally healed yet, but okay.
And that's
what am I going to do
okay.
to support? Yeah. And that's fine. And what am I going to do to support myself today? Because what do I want? What is my ultimate goal? And what do I want? And this is how I'm getting through it. This is how I'm getting through these yucky days where I get triggered. You know, and it probably is a blessing that I listened to her. You know, partly I was like, bad freaking timing. I don't know why I did that, because we're recording today. And then as I got here and started thinking, I was just like, no, I'm just going to go on the show today, and I'm just going to be real with where I'm at, what I'm doing, and how I'm feeling. And I'm just going to be there, because what happened sucked. Like, it sucked, and it freaking rocked my world, you know? And but do I want to stay there in that horrible experience? No, I don't. I want to learn from it. And I do believe I am transforming and learning through it. But yeah, this is just where I'm at today.
I have a question in terms of like what you're feeling. I've never like grilled you with questions, so I feel like
it's my turn, right?
Yeah. Does it feel is the heartbreak that you're feeling, because it is heartbreak to a certain degree, is the heartbreak that you are feeling in regards to this situation in a way echoing to certain things in your present? That's one question. And then the other question is the wound, would you label or categorize the wound as a wound of betrayal? Lost the connection. Hey, sorry, when did I cut off?
You said, and the other question is?
Okay. And the other question is, would you categorize or label this wound as a wound of betrayal? Like, is there some aspect of you that feels a sense of betrayal?
Okay, so your first question is what I'm going through mirroring events going on in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind
Mm-hmm.
of, I don't know if it's as much mirroring events going on in my life right now as much as kind of a continuation
Okay.
of, because
It's
honestly,
almost like that ripple, right? So it's like
it's a ripple effect.
that
And
event was like the pebble, and then everything else has sort of been an echo. That's why I
yes,
used the word echo and I didn't use the
yeah,
word mirror, because echo to me it's like this thing that's been going on and on and on and on. It's just like it's this like massive. I should keep note of that for the book that I'm working on, but but yeah, so like this
yes,
echo that's been going on for quite some
yes,
time.
that is what I'm dealing with.
Okay.
And right now, it can take years to heal from something that I went through. And I think that it really, what I went through really affected my family as well. And that I have to take responsibility for. And um, my family felt it, and it hurt them too. And so that's kind of what, if there's an echo, that's kind of the other part of the transformation process going on with me right now, and with my family as well. There's a
Mm,
transformation. I don't know what's going to be at the end of it, really, because I do trust and honor the divine.
right.
Is it scary sometimes? Yeah, it's scary.
I'm
It's
sure.
scary because if I get my mind involved, I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to be taken care of? How is this going to work out? But if I look back at my life, really, it's always worked out. It really has. And what if it works out better than I think it's going to work out? It always has. But I just have to trust. I really have to trust. And I do trust. And that's the thing. I do have my moments where my thoughts do come and creep up. But the echo is my family healing now, too, at this point in time. And going through all of that, me healing and my family healing right
Mm,
now. And the other question was, do I feel like there was a betrayal?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I do feel like there was a betrayal on so many different layers and so many
Yeah.
different levels. Um, so many different layers and so many different levels.
I feel like
And
that should be an episode that we delve deep into like how betrayal can change people.
yeah.
Because the reason why I asked you this question is because in many ways I've felt that my somewhat hardening, because I don't believe that I fully hardened from life, but I feel like was a lot of um there was a lot of cynicism that came through. There was a lot of like more skeptical or more aggressive things that started or perspectives, not things, like more aggressive perspectives that started to come through me because of a series of events that the last time I had this conversation with Bug, and that was like a couple of months ago. I think it was like towards the summer, beginning of summer or something. I mentioned in one of my breakdowns as I was crying that I feel like life betrayed me. And that's sort of why I wanted to ask you that question, because I wanted to see if what I was feeling, though completely different circumstance, very different circumstance. So there's no comparison because your journey is your journey and my journey is mine. But I wanted to see if there was at least some crossover in terms of the wound itself.
Mhm.
And I find it very fascinating when I find people that I consider soulmates, not necessarily in the romantic sense, but in the more friendship sense, in the sense of like, I know that I was meant to have you in my life in this lifetime. I always find it fascinating when I'm experiencing things that they are also experiencing in their own way. There is this sense of like, oh my God, we are echoes of each other. Like there is this like echo that is sort of happening, because it's like life is asking us to look at this particular wound at this time in our life. So you and I not only sharing an astrological sign, but also also a deep, deep love and deep respect for each other. We both believe that, you know, we know for a fact that we were meant to cross in this lifetime. It's very interesting to me that we're both, there is this sense of like this, there's a betrayal wound that it's like you are both meant to fully heal from right now. Like, so it's very interesting to me. And it also makes me like, there's a nice glimmer in that versus a trigger. There's a nice glimmer in that it's like, we're not alone. And that is also, it's always like a means for like, oh, good, I'm safe. Like, I'm not alone. Like, I know someone else is going through something very similar. And there is this like sacred space that can be created to sort of go back and forth.
And that sacred space for me is who am I going to allow in my life right now? And, you know, as Swami said in the little passage that I read earlier, like, what do you want?
Right.
Like, do these people want to grow, or do they want to stay in their negativity?
Yeah.
What channel do they want to use? Do they want to use the channel of positivity or the channel of negativity? And the people for me that are safe are the people that, number one, are going to accept me for who I am. And number two, want to grow.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about bypassing.
Right.
I'm talking about real growing here, and people that can hold space for you when you're going through these days. And the other thing that I want to talk about as far as betrayal, like if you want to get down to it, and that's part of the healing process, is looking at the ways that I got myself in the situation that I got myself into. And that is, what were my expectations? And how did my expectations not turn out? And before anybody betrayed me, how did I betray myself?
Oof.
You know, I knew years before I left that I needed to leave, but I allowed somebody to talk me into staying when I knew. And I just had this gut feeling that, you know, I've learned what I need to learn in this way. It's time to go. And yeah, the timing sucked. You know, there was so much going on at that point in time, and I didn't know how to leave. But I betrayed myself, and I betrayed my own inner guidance, and I betrayed my own heart. And I stayed, and I learned so much, you know, on that topic of betrayal and negativity, gaslighting, all of it. I mean, all of it. I learned so much. And I first and foremost betrayed myself because I wasn't listening to me. That does not excuse them from their behavior.
Right. No, absolutely.
It does not. But if I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow and I'm not going to be put in this situation again, what did I learn about that situation? What did I learn about myself from that situation? What I learned is that I didn't really listen to myself. And I had these expectations that didn't get fulfilled on my end. And I really have to look at that. I really, really have to look at that, not in a blame game for me. I can't, you know, call myself names. In the past, I would have called myself all sorts of names, and I would have, that negative cycle I would have stayed in the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
No, I have to give myself grace. I have to give myself the grace that I give other people. I have to do that for me first and foremost. Like, okay, yeah, this happened. I didn't listen to myself. I stayed in the situation that was not good for me. And I'm not saying it's not good for anybody. It just wasn't for me. You know, it was not for me. And I didn't listen to me and get out when I should have gotten out. And so what am I going to do if that happens the next time? You know,
Right.
if I get myself in a situation, how am I going to learn from this? And the only way to stay in the positive is to give myself grace.
Right.
I have to give myself grace. I have to give myself grace. After I read that, I ended up going into this book that I just love so much. I mean, this book is literally like falling apart right now because I just open it all the time and I read it. And it always like comes up with it's always what I need to read. And that's what's so interesting. So after I went on this through this other book, I opened up the Divine Mystery Fort. And what I opened it up to was the mind, the main block in the first stage of illusion. And here's what he had to say. There is only one enemy opposing you, and that is the noise of your mind. It's always with you. It's always living in you. It's always following you until this body dies. It's always with you. You must take care of it. It's a big enemy, your real enemy. When you think about the mind's activity in your life, you can control your life very easy. When you sit in the deep silence, when you control your mind, then the soul energy automatically rises up. The soul automatically teaches you how to go to the deeper levels of silence. No need for Sri Sai Kalashwara Swami to teach you. No need for any other person to teach you. Your heart is teaching you everything. Automatically, the soul gives you beautiful information, beautiful thoughts, and beautiful energy. How did someone invent the rocket? He concentrated all of his energy on that. How did ordinary people find unbelievable formulas living on this planet? It's amazing. They worked the formulas they found. They controlled their mind. They focused on one subject. They totally worked on that. They found what they wanted. If the mind was crazy, they couldn't find anything. After a little while, their mind said, "Come on, stupid, why waste your time? Go to the pool bar and enjoy alcohol." Then he goes to the bar with rock and roll and goes crazy. Ordinarily, when you're sitting in meditation, your mind brings thoughts of someone, your girlfriend, your enemy, your business. It's always making you divert to crazy stuff. Therefore, you don't get a great meditation. To leave the first stage of illusion, you take control of the mind and make it calm down and not play monkey games with your heart and your soul. You do this by throwing the mind some work, the mantra, especially your personal mantra. Then you must command your soul. You must put a little pressure, some energy. You're pleading, "Come on, dear soul, come up. Please come up. Really, I have missed you for so many years. Come up, please come up." You know you have succeeded when you go to the deep trance of the mind and the mind has been turned off. You must always remember that the whole universe is mortal, everything. This chair one day must be destroyed. This building one day must be destroyed. That hill one day must be destroyed. This body one day must be destroyed. In the universe, nothing is coming with us. Whatever happiness we get, only the real happiness of the soul comes with us as we reach the highest cosmic energy. We are like candles shining light. There's a lot of darkness surrounding us, and we must probe that darkness to see where we come from. You must find the energy to follow it into your soul. Sometimes your soul shines brightly, sometimes it's dark, and then the light has to come up again. The darkness is always temporary. It's like clouds passing before the sun. Are the clouds permanent? No, the sun is always giving the light. Everyone must have the confidence that they too can find the light. Think, I can do that. Have faith in yourself. I can do that. If you have faith in yourself, you have confidence in yourself, and that's it. If you concentrate on the cosmic energy, if you concentrate on your soul, if you concentrate on finding God, then you'll totally forget everything else. You're working on that, then positively you'll get that. My main point is to use your heart with concentration, focusing on what is very important. We must ignore the mind. If thoughts are good, we must think about them. If they are bad, we must forget those thoughts. Cosmic energy is holding nothing but love. Cosmic energy is nothing but silence. That's called the God energy. When we feel that love with God, the real love, the inner side of God's love, when we taste that, then we can command all of God's creations. We can totally command on whatever he created on this planet. We have a relationship with all of his creation. When we have that connection, when we have that relationship with God, then automatically we have the same relationship as he does with everything on this planet.
Wow.
That was a little longer than I expected it to be, but like I couldn't stop reading it because I was just
it's honestly, it's a great way to sort of bring everything that we were talking about together. Because it does really tie everything that we were just talking about in a beautiful, very succinct way.
Yes.
And it also ties into last week's episode where we talked about silence.
Yeah.
And I think it's very true. I think we are our, worst enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea that, oh, this is happening to me, or, oh, this is a situation that, is happening to me. Life is happening. No, life is happening. It's not happening to you, but life is happening. You are the one. And this is something that is a very tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. I think I'm still trying to swallow that pill, but we are the ones that are making the choices.
Yes.
The idea of free will is exactly that. I am free to choose to either see the heaven in the horrible or the horrible in the horrible. I am free to ignore red flags when I see red flags, but then I cannot bitch about it. Like, if you saw the red flags and you ignored the red flags, then you put yourself in this situation. Period. This idea of like, I've had a lot of my friends who are currently in relationships. I've had to, in deep conversations, I've asked them, like, are you with this person because of the potential version of that person that you see in them, or are you with that person because of who they are right now in this very moment?
Yeah. Exactly.
Because if you're with this person for their potential, you're with them for the wrong reason.
Well, yeah, you have an expectation.
And
you're not listening to yourself. Yeah.
You're with them for the wrong reason. You're with them in the hopes that you are going to somehow miraculously pull a Jesus and heal them and change them. And I mean, more power for your own self-belief, but that's a wrong reason to stay with a person. I've even had to do that within my, within this relationship that I'm in right now. There were days where I had to really look at the relationship and go like, am I with Bug for who he is today in this very moment in the present, or am I with him because of the potential that I see within him?
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to really find the answer to that question. It's like it's like you plant a seed with the hopes that the seed is going to grow into a tree, but the way that the seed grows into a tree, the way its branches fall, the way it blooms, the color of its flower, that's up to the seed itself. Like, there's nothing you can do to design the way the tree is going to grow. Nothing.
I love that analogy. Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. It's going to choose the amount of branches that it's going to have. It's going to choose the way its leaves are going to fall. It's going to do it itself. Your job is to simply plant the seed, make sure the soil is healthy, holding space, make sure that you are watering it when it needs it, when it needs it, giving it the nutrients that it needs. So nurture, care, hold space.
And the amount of leaves, branches, flowers, whatever it is, that's divinely encoded within that seed.
Yeah, that's up to the tree.
That's already encoded. Yeah.
So that analogy goes for parents and children. That analogy goes to relationships. That analogy goes to friendships. That analogy goes to you, because it's a reminder that you get to choose the way your tree is going to grow. You get to choose it. Along with God, along with the universe, because you are, I always say this. I was going to say, I always say this to my clients. Been a minute. I've always said this to people who have come to me for readings or friends, but you are co-writing your story with God. That's what you're doing. You're a co-writer. You're co-writing it with God. So what is the story that you want to tell? What is going to happen in the chapter next? You get to choose. You have the pen. You get to choose.
And what do you want? Like,
and what do you want?
You're basically choosing what you want. Do you want to stay in the negative at all times? Or do you want to find heaven within the negative? And this world will never be what we want it to be.
Oh, never.
It's never. You know, for the political activists, not the entire world is not going to be Republican and the entire world is not going to be Democrat. It's just not going to happen.
Nope.
We're always going to see things differently, you know?
But there's a beauty in that, though. There is a beauty in that. If we choose to see the beauty in it. If we choose to, I was listening to probably be the last point that I make today, but there's this new podcast that I'm listening to and I really love it. It's this gay couple and they go and discuss their journey, their experience. And in one of the most recent episodes, one of the couples says that they've noticed how people can't seem to disagree anymore. Like there's no room for disagreement. It's either you walk in my lane or you don't. And it's like, that's not how the world works. Like I can disagree with someone. Like I used to say, I think I've mentioned this in the first season, but like, I can disagree with you and still hold space for you. Like I can disagree with you and still be your friend. I can disagree with you and still love you. Disagreement isn't this like apocalyptic negative thing. We're all meant to see the world differently. We can't all see the world the way you like one person wants us to see the world or a group of people wants us to see the world. It's not going to happen. And the fact that we are somehow in this day and age fighting more and more to become this very monochrome society or collective where it's everybody has the same thoughts. Everybody says the same thing. Everybody likes the same stuff. Everybody like that's really boring, this is the world you want. Like this is the reality that you want. This is the world that you want to live in where nobody like all the ideas are the same. Like the reason why a lot of people are hating movies nowadays is because they've become carbon copy. They're literally remakes. They're like carbon copies of things that have happened before. Like And people are getting tired of it. So imagine if it's like people. Imagine if it's like your friend and you're sitting across the table from your friend and you say something and your friend goes, yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. Like, what's the point?
Well, like, you know, that situation just came up for me. And 4 years ago, I met this person, you know who she is because I saw her the other night.
Yes.
4 or 5, I can't, well, no, maybe it wasn't. It was 2020. It was November 2020. We got together. Her and I got together. And we were literally sitting there like debating the presidential candidate, which candidate would be the best. And all I remember from that is, yeah, I loved hanging out with her. I appreciated it. We were at this place called Armature Works, which is an amazing place. And if we'll go at Christmas when you come here, because it's so beautiful.
Okay.
It's so beautiful.
Okay, deal.
Yeah, I just love it, especially at Christmas time, and it's all lit up. It's like on the Hillsborough River, like right there by UT where you went to college. You know,
Yeah.
it's beautiful and it's all lit up, and you get to walk down the river walk and see Christmas trees and everything else. It's lovely. So I love being out there. It's just beautiful. And we were talking about politics, and the only thing, like, when I think about the whole experience with her that day, I loved being out there with her. But when I think about that situation with her, it's frustrating because I was trying to prove a point, she was trying to prove a point, and neither of us were hearing each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we got together again the other night, and she started talking about a member of her family who's going to law school. And I just remember this member of her family was just really, really strongly in favor of one presidential candidate. And it was totally against what I would have picked for a presidential candidate. And I said to her, what does he think about it now? And I wasn't asking her that question to get her wound up and try to prove a point. I asked her that question with the intention of listening to her. And we actually had a really great conversation about politics. And I didn't feel like, and I was asking her these questions to get to know her and not to judge where she was coming from. No, I didn't believe in everything that she had to say because I am me and she is her. But I respect her opinion, and I wasn't trying to throw my opinion down her throat to change her mind. And at the end of the day, what I found really fascinating, we both wanted the same thing.
Yes.
We both really just wanted, and we could really just agree on that because I just really wanted to get to know who she was on that level, in that area. And I was genuinely curious about her thoughts about it this time. Instead of trying to say you're wrong, I was genuinely curious. And we need that in our life. We need that curiosity about other people in our life without the expectation that they're going to change their mind. We need to be curious again about people's lives. And then when you really get to the seed of the issue, we really all do want the same thing, very close to the same thing. If it's not exact, but very close to the same thing. They're just different ways to go around it.
Yep.
There are different paths to God.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. There's this beautiful, I don't know if I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but there's this beautiful reel that I've been off of social media for like almost a week now. So, but there's this beautiful reel that I shared with you, I think, as well at one point, where it's this guy saying, what is 5 plus 5? And then the person says 10. And then someone says, what is 8 plus 2? And the person says 10. And then the person's like, what is 20 divided by 2? And it's like 10. What is 9 plus 1? 10. What is 7 plus 3? 10. What is 6 plus 4? 10. The point being, there are so many different ways to get to 10.
Yeah.
Not one of these ways is wrong. Not one of these ways is right. They're all right. And that's okay. There is no one path. And I'm going to use that to sort of like affirm what you just said. There's no one path to God. There's no one path to love. There's not. There's not.
Right.
There's your path. And that's the path you should worry about. Don't worry about how another person gets to God. That's not your job. Worry about how you're going to get to God and what you want for your life, and let everything else do its thing.
Mm-hmm.
And be curious about, and then if you want to talk about other people and their path, be curious about it. Be curious about it to the point where you're willing to listen. and not judge and not criticize. Again, hold space, nurture, care.
Yep. 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 Be curious.
Love it.
Yes.
And on that note, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at the Visitara Hour. It's becoming a bit more active now that the show is getting its gears going. There are like weekly there's like 2 times a week I'm posting reels that basically excite for the next upcoming episode. You can also watch the show on YouTube, as I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast. Please make sure you subscribe, you like, you comment, you share, do the thing. You can also listen to us on all podcast platforms. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the list goes on. If you like the show, make sure that we would really appreciate if you could leave us a comment and a rating. It'll help us reach more and more folks who are curious and want to listen to the Visitara Hour and to our show and what we have to say. If you want to reach out to us, you could always email us at thevisitarahour@gmail.com. And I think that's pretty much all of it. So I'm going to hand off the mic to Allison to close off the show, as she does every single time in this beautiful season. Floor is yours.
I'm going to say one thing, because we usually tell people to have like a journal entry.
Yes, totally forgot about the journal entry.
The thing that I want to explore this week is curiosity about yourself. How has curiosity about yourself helped you understand yourself even more?
Love that.
Yeah. And what can we be more curious about when it comes to ourselves?
Picture yourself interviewing yourself on 60 Minutes. Or on the Oprah show back in the day.
Yes, exactly. So on that note, may all beings be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. Namaste.
Namaste. Blessing everyone. We'll see you again next week. Take care.
SUKHINO BHAVANTU. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om LOKAH SAMASTAH. SUKHINO BHAVANTU. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.